Hello? Am I audible? Hello? Am I audible? Can you all hear me? If yes, you can type it in the chat that you all can hear me. Hi Kamal, how are you? Let's wait for a couple of minutes for people to join and then we can start building our landing page. Uh, if you all can hear me, just type yes in the chat. If you want to, if you want me to increase the volume, just let me know so I can increase the volume as well. I'm so excited for the live session. I'm doing it after a very, very long time. So I hope everything goes well in this live class, and I hope we build a good landing page, a very good design that I have in mind. Okay, increase the volume, it seems. Just give me a second. Is it good now? Is it better now? Is it better? If it's better, then let me know. You can type it in the chat that it's better. Or should I increase it more? Should I increase it more? Or is it good? Okay. Hi Ashish. Hi Sarthak. Great, great, great. Okay. All good, all good. Great, 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 great. Okay. Let's wait for a couple of more minutes for others to join, and then we'll start in some time. Thank you, Ashish. Thank you. I'll just increase the volume for different sections as well, so it does not create a problem anywhere. Okay. 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 So I think we should get started. Um okay. So the topic for the day is building a landing page. We'll try to do it in 1 hour. So, what is the difference between a landing page and a website? So, if any one of you could answer this question, if you know what is the difference between a landing page and a website. So, does anyone know the answer to this question? Difference between landing page and website? Anything, anything, anything. If you know the difference, you can just type yes, or if you know what the difference is, you can just say it in one line that this basically is a particular difference between a landing page and a full-fledged website. So they are two different things. They are not the same thing. Okay. So let me take it. Let me answer this. So the difference between a landing page and a website is, a landing page is generally used when you want to advertise a lot of things. Like for example, in one single page, you want to show your services. You want a call to action button, basically where a user can fill a form and submit, or user can enter a query, or user can enter their email ID or something like that, and you want to advertise your hero product or something like that, or you want to say about your business that this is your business. So that's basically a single landing page, like a one page. That's a landing page. And what is a website? It has multiple pages. Like for example, there will be a page for the about section, there will be a page for contact us section, there will be a page for testimonial section, there will be a page for different products. So that is what basically a website is. Okay, so that's a difference between a website and basically a landing page. So without wasting any time, let's dive into it, and I'll show you what exactly we are going to make. So we are basically going to make this thing. Okay, so this is the landing page that we are going to make over here. So if you can see, it's a beautiful, beautiful landing page. So this I have taken it from an exercise from Code Mentor. So we are going to design this today. So we are going to make everything from scratch. I'll show you from where to download the images as well. So there is a website, we'll use that website. I'll encourage you to use different text, like don't plainly copy what I'm trying to do. You can change the colors. Instead of writing features, team, sign in, you can write something else. Instead of writing flyer, you can write something else. So try to write something of your own. So that's basically double learning. So we'll just break it down first, what all are there in this landing page, and then we'll start with the code. So if you see over here, first basically we have a nav bar which has a title, flyer, and then there are these links, which is features, team, and sign in. After that, there is this section which has this all your files in one secure location, and then on the right hand side there is some image. This is one section which basically tells what flyer is. So it's like you store your files somewhere in an accessible location, and then this is your CTA, as I was saying, a call to action button. Then there is another section over here which basically has some text, and then an image on the right, and then a card over here also, which basically has an image and the designation and the name. So this is the second section. Then there is this third section over here of getting early access today. So again there is a CTA. So this is what happens in the landing page. You will see the same CTA multiple times. And then there is this footer over here. So we are going to make this footer also section over here. Nothing is clickable, but I'll show you how to redirect it to some pages as well. So instead of Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, if you want to add your GitHub, LinkedIn, and Twitter, you can do that as well. Okay. So Melody Core says landing page means user interface. So see, specifically landing page does not only mean user interface. So user interface is something which a user can use, right? That can be a user interface. So even websites, everything basically is like a UI. Whatever you see, it's basically a user interface. But what separates a landing page from a website is, landing page is a single page which has all of these CT and all the things, and website has multiple pages. As I told, there can be a page for testimonial, there can be a different page for contact us, there can be a separate page for about us, and different things, services that they provide. But landing page is one single page. So yeah, do you like this design? If yes, you can say yes in the chat. If no, you can say no in the chat. Or if you want to do something else. Do you like this design? Is it good? Come on, say something in the chat, either yes or no. Nice. Okay, okay. Thank you, Parvez. Thank you. Okay. So let's start with the code. Okay. So I'm going to use VS Code. I already have a folder over here by the name landing page, and over here I'll first create an index.html, and I'll create a style.css as well over here. Style.css. Okay, so let's get started with the index.html. So we'll create the boilerplate first. So the boilerplate, basically you can just write HTML:5. So you'll get the boilerplate over here. Is it visible, or should I increase the size of the screen? Okay, so I'll give a title over here. Let's say we'll give it a name as, I'll kick it Flyo only, Flyo, and or I'll just give something like home over here. So this basically is my title. I can also write, let's say, Flyo-landing page. Okay. To customize this, okay. First, let's check whether it's working or not. Everything is working. So I'll just give an h1 tag over here, and then say, let's say landing page. Let's see whether this is working or not. So I'll save it and open it with server. So I'll right click on it to open with live server. So if you don't know where all these options are, so this is an extension called as live server. So if you're using VS Code, you can click over here and you can search for extension which says live server. So, and then you can get this one, the first one, live server launch deploy. You can get this extension and install this extension. And to use this extension, you can see over here at the bottom right, there is go live. You can click over here, or you can right click on this and click on open with live server. Okay, so you can use these extensions. So I'll click on open with live server. So if I click on open with live server, it should open this for me. So I can see that this basically is the landing page over here. Okay, so I know now everything is running properly. So let's go back to the code and write the code. Okay. So to make it more customized, what I'm going to do is I'm also going to use a meta tag and add my name also over here. So I can just give it as name is equal to author, and the content would be my name, which is Prakash Sakari. Okay, so the name is author and the content is Prakash Sakari. So basically, I'm just making it more customized that this is my website. Okay. Now let's get started with the main thing. So we are going to divide, as we said, we are going to divide the website in different parts. So the first one was the navigation, okay, or the header. So we are going to use semantic HTML. We are not going to use div everywhere. So in the body, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to write, I'm going to take header over here. Okay, and then in the header, I have two things. First, I want a title, and then I want these different links as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, in the header, first I'm going to do is I'm going to create an h1. Okay, I'm going to create an h1 and I'll give the title. So let's say the title is Flyo. Okay, so I'll save this. And then what I want is I want the link. So let's see whether this is working or not. So this should work. So if we click on open with live server. So if I go over here, so I can see Flyo over here. Okay, this is great. Let's go back to the code and write the code. Okay. So now I want the links. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a nav tag. So over here I'll just write nav, and then since I want links, okay, so what I'm going to use is I can use either span, or I can use either small or either p. But as I told you, we are going to use semantic HTML. So we are going to use list. So first I'll use an unordered list, and in the unordered list I want three things. So I can just write li into 3. So basically this is using emit. So it will give me 3 basically options. Over here I can just write home, let's say about us, and let's say, over here I'm going to write home, and let's say team, and let's say sign in. Or instead of home, let me write features. This was it over there. Okay, so I have home, I have features, and I have all the things. Now these are just, so if I save it, and then if I go to the live server, the browser, so I can see it over here that I have the title and then I have a list. But I don't want a list, right? I want a list of links. I just don't want the link. I want the list. So I'll go back to the code, and in the list I'm going to add the anchor tag, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this, and then over here I'm going to use an A tag, okay, and then I'm going to keys the href to be, let's say, home only, and the target would be blank, and over here I don't want this rel also. Over here I'll write features, okay. href I'm going to keep it, I want the home page only, I don't want anything else. Now I'm going to use this same anchor tag everywhere, so I'll just copy this, and then I'm going to paste it over here and use this thing over here. Instead of features, I'm going to make it home, and then over here also, instead of sign in, I'm going to use this A tag, okay, and over here I'm just going to put, inside the list I'm going to put the A tag, and over here instead of features I'm going to write sign in, okay, fine. Now if I save it, and then if I go back to the browser, so now I can see these basically are nothing but links. So if I hover over it, so I can see that, yeah, the page is refreshing. So these are nothing basically but these are the links, and it's opening every time it's opening it in a new tab. It's because of the target blank. So let's remove that target blank attribute, because that is not actually required for now. So I'll go back over here and remove the target blank attribute. So I'll just select it and use the beauty of VS Code. I'll just clear all of them. Okay. Now what next? Now we have to design the navbar, right? So we have to make it more like it should look like a navbar. Right now it's not looking actually like a navbar. It basically looks something else. So how to do that? So to do that we have to style it, right? So we are going to use the style.css. Okay. So for that, let me just do this. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my CSS. So I'll write link :CSS, and so it gives me the name also. The name is style.css only. Okay. So what I'm going to do is first basically I'm going to create some reset CSS. So how do you create a reset CSS? You use asterisk, and then I'll make the margin to be 0 and padding to be 0, okay, and box sizing basically would be border box, okay. So what is the meaning of this thing? So for all the elements or tags that I'm going to use, the margin would be 0 and the padding would be 0. So I don't want the default margin or padding provided by the browser, but I want to apply my own margin and my own padding. So it won't add on it, but whatever margin I provide, it will be that margin only. Okay. Now after this, what I want is I want some good font also and some good colors also. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, first thing first, I'll just set all the things. So over here, we just come over here, and then if you know from where to search fonts, you can do it. But I just generally go to Google Fonts. So search for Google Fonts over here, and then you can get fonts. So when you're using fonts, also do study on which fonts to be used. Like, don't use fonts like these. These are very cluttered and not professional. font should always be clean. So you can use Roboto, you can use Open Sans, you can use something like that. So yeah, so what I'm going to do is I am basically going to use Open Sans. So I'll teach you how to use it. So I'll first remove everything from here. I'll click on Open Sans over here, and then I have to select the styling and the basically size also of the font. So the styling can be italic or it can be normal, and then bold, semi-bold. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select regular 400, and I'm going to select medium 500, and then I'm going to select bold 700 also. Okay, and then how to import it? I have to select this bubble import, and then don't select everything from style, just select this thing only, the import thing. So I've copied this, I'll come back to the code, and then in the code, I'm in the styles, I'll put it in the code, in the styles.css, I will basically add it over here, and I'll press Alt Z. So Alt Z will basically wrap everything. Then I'll again go back to the Google font browser, okay, and then over here, then I have to also select this font family also. So I'll select this font family, not the entire thing. My mouse is not working properly, I don't know why. So I'll copy this, come back to the code, and then in the code, what are we going to do is, in the body, I'm going to just paste, not in all, basically I'll create a body over here. I'll create a body, and then in the body I'm going to just paste it. So I have the font, and then I have basically the reset CSS also. Let's see if this is working for now. So I have saved it, and then if you go back to the browser over here, okay, so you can see that the text has basically changed. The styling of the text has changed because we are using a new font now. If you don't like this font, then you can change the font, okay, but since I like the font, so I use this font a lot. Let's go back to the code. Now in the code, what I'm going to do is I have to apply a background color to the body. So the background color that I'm basically going to use, we should never keep the background completely white. So plain white background is not very good, like it's basically a pain to the eyes. So rather than using a plain background, what I'm going to use is I'm going to write over here HSL. I have so basically it's a shade of white, not complete white, 240, 75%, 98%. So it's basically hue, saturation and value, so you can read about this. So if I save it, the background color will change. Okay, so if I go back over here, so if you can see, the background color has changed. If you can't see, it's okay. I'll inspect this, and then we can see it whether the background color has actually changed or not. Okay, so if I click on body over here, I click on body, so you can see over here there is a background color. If I click over here, it has changed. If you can see it, if I click over here, then the background color is applied over here. Okay, great. Okay, let's go back and write the remaining code. I think this might take more than an hour. If it takes more than an hour, then please bear with me. We'll change some of the other things, or I'll give something as assignment for you to do. Okay, so let's create some styling for the header also. So over here, I'll just create a class, let's say heading. Okay, and okay, so what I'm going to do is for dot heading. So the first thing that I have to do is I have to have a background color for this also. So the background color, I'll keep it, okay, we won't have a background color for this. Let's just have a color. So the color would be the text color. So the text also, since it's black, it should not be completely black, but I'll select a version of a black. So this is 27272A. So these are the colors which I've already done because I've already edited the code. Okay. Now what I have to do is I have to apply some flexing also. Since in the heading, now I have to create the nav on the right hand side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some utility class over here. So I'll write dflex, display flex, this is display flex, and then over here I'll write display flex. Okay. Okay, and then I'll apply this deflex to this heading class. Okay. Now why am I doing this? Why am I not writing in the heading? Because I may have to use it at different places also. So if I save it and then go back to the browser, so now if you see, it comes in line with the flyo thingy. It comes in line over there. Okay, let's go back to the code and let's write more. So I have display flex. Now what I want is, I want basically, let's apply a background color to this and then we can understand how it is working. So let's take aqua. So if I save it, I'm just doing the background color just for understanding purpose, okay? So you can understand what is happening. So if you see now, this navbar basically has this background. So what I want is, I want the features team and sign in to move to the right. So how can I move it to the right? So to move it to the right, it's quite simple. What I can do is, we have to go back to the code and then we'll write over here. I have to apply some flex property. So to the heading, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to apply a flex property. Let's say I'll just write dot flex prop, and then over here I'll use flex. So over here I'll write flex grow 1, strings 0, and basis auto. Okay, basis auto. Okay. I'll save this, and then now let's create some class for this also. I'll apply some padding over here for the heading. Let's apply some padding also. So padding top, bottom, left, right will apply 2 rem, and let's see how does it look. So yes, it looks good. So the padding also is good. Let's come back to the code and let's write more. So now what I can do is, I can apply a class over here also and make this also, let's say, deflex. So see the beauty of reusing the class. Now if I go back and then if I see over here, okay, so I have to apply this deflex, not over here, but I have to apply it here. Okay, so see, applying the deflex won't work over here, right? There's no use of doing it over here. We have to apply it on basically the list. So for the list, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to create a class over here. I don't want bullets, so what I'll do is, I'll create a class called as list non-bullets. Okay, and save it, and then over here I can basically write dot list dash non dash bullets, and then I can say list style, I can just say none. Okay, so I can say list style, that is none. So what I've done is, basically I've applied a class on the list, which is list non-bullets over here. And then in the styling, I have written list non-bullets as list style to be none. So if I go back to the website, so now I can see that there are no bullet on the list. Okay. And then what I want is, for all the list items, so I'll create a class for all the list items also. So if I want to do them together, so what I can do is, I can use Alt and click everywhere wherever I want, and then I can create a class for all of them. So I can write class is equal to, let's say, list item. Okay, class is equal to list item, and then over here it's very simple. Since I want them to come on one line together, since all of them are coming one after the other, it's basically because by default the display is blocked for every list, right? So I can write display, I'll write it as inline block. Okay, I want it to be inline block because I can add padding and margin also, right? So then now if I see them, okay, now I can see all of them basically are on one single line. So let's apply some alignment to them. Okay, let's apply some alignment. So to the header, basically I'm going to apply alignment so that the nav and all of these things come together. So what I'm going to do is, over here, since I want it center, so what I'll do is, I'll write align dash C, which is center. So I'll write align items center, and then so over here in the deflex, I'll use this align C class. So I'll write align dash C. So if I save it and if I go back over here, Okay, so we can see that all of them are aligned together. Let's go back to the code. Now what I want to do is I wanted to move it towards the right. So see, a lot of you might be thinking we can use justify, content and center and all of these things, but I'll show you with different things. So what I'll do is I'll take a class nav, and over here I'll just write dot nav, and then I can write margin left to be, I'll just write auto. So if I write margin left auto and then save it and then go back over here, so see it has moved towards the right. So see, slowly we are moving towards making our navbar, right? So we are moving towards making a right navbar. So now it has moved towards the right. So there's no need to use justify content center, or justify content, let's say space around, space between and all the things. You can use margin auto. Now let's add some padding between the links also, and then we'll remove the background color. So to add padding between the links, what I'm going to do is in the list item over here, what I can do is I can just write padding, and then I can just give it as, let's say, 1 rem, left and right to be 1 rem. So if I save it, and then if we go back, so yes, you can see there is some space between the links also. So great. Okay, we are approaching towards our goal. Now what I want is, I don't want the underline which was there for the links. So what I can do is, I can go to this anchor tag, and then in the anchor tag, I can create a class for link. So I can just give it a name as link. So be specific with your class name also, so that basically would help you in writing good CSS. So writing good CSS is an art. So building any landing page or a website is all about writing good CSS. If you write good CSS, then it's good. So I can take it as text decoration to be, let's say, none. Okay, and then I want to change the color also. So the color, basically I can keep the color as let's say this color only, the color that I have taken over here, which is 27272L. So I'll write hashtag 27272L. So it's giving me the suggestion. So if I save it, and then if you go back, okay, it looks good, right? It kind of looks good. Let's say if we can hover over it, yeah, so yes, we can. So it's basically we can click on it also. Okay, now what I want is we can change once we hover over it, so basically the color should change, or its opacity should change. Okay, not the color, we can change its opacity. So what I can do is I can again create one more class. See, rather than writing link colon hover and all the things, so you create a separate class. So you can use this class anywhere, right? If I create cursor, and then what I'm going to do is I can write dot cursor colon hover, and then basically what I'm going to write, opacity, let's say it would be 0.85. So I just want to reduce the opacity. So now if I see it, if I go back over here, and if I hover my cursor over there, so if you can see, the opacity is changing. Okay, I don't know whether you can see it. Let me reduce it more so that is more visible. So let's say I'll keep it 0.5, the opacity to be 0.5, and then if I go back over here, and then if I hover, yeah, so now it's clearly visible, right? The opacity is changing. See, if I zoom in and then show you, so the opacity is changing. So generally whenever you are using hover, instead of creating a different color and saying that okay, on hover this color should change, you can reduce the opacity by 10 to 20%. So that is good enough, not reducing the opacity beyond that. So reducing the opacity beyond that is not a good practice. So I'm reducing it by 15%, so 10 to 20% is good enough to reduce the opacity. Okay. Mazhar says, I am a very huge fan of hover. So everyone likes hover, right? Hover is very important because if you don't put hover on a link, then no one will know that okay, it's basically a link or on a button. So when you hover, so something changes, then it grabs your attention. So that is basically some tricks and ideas of CSS, that you grab attention of basically people, so that you can show them okay, this is the link or this is the button. So now since we are almost done with our nav bar, so what I can do is we can just remove this background color. So let's do this. Let's remove the background color over here. I'll remove the background color. Okay. So save it. Great. So if I go back and see, okay, so it's building now. It's looking good. So we are basically achieving what we wanted over here. So if I show you the landing page that we want, okay, so this is it, and then we have our features team and sign in also. So see the padding, you can change the padding also. In this, the padding is huge. You can add more padding to it also. Depends on how you want it to look. Okay. Okay. Let's go back to the code. So this is done. So now what we want is, now what we want our next section. So let's have a look at that also. What is our next section? So the next section is this one. Okay. Now how did I make this? Can anyone give me a wild guess? How did I make this? What do you think? How did I make this? What have I used to separate them? Now these are two different things. Okay. These are not one single thing, but these are two different things. So what do you think? How did I actually come up with this thing? How did I make it? Okay. So basically I have made this using grid. So I'll inspect and show it to you. So if I right click on it and then right click over here and click on this thing. So if you can see, this is a section, and then if you see over here, there is this grid in inspect. So if I click over here, so you can see the layout over here that there is a grid and it's a 2-column grid. Okay. So we are going to use grid. We are going to create a grid, basically a 2-column grid that we are going to create, and then we will add the text and the image to the grid also. Okay. So okay, let's do it. Let's go back to the code. So now since my header is done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create basically a main tag. So see, always go by semantic HTML. You have an header, then a main, and then a footer. In the main you can add sections, and in sections you can add articles also. If you want a side nav, use aside. Don't just simply write main div everywhere. Okay. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, in the main I'll first create one section. Okay. Because my main will have multiple sections. Okay, my main is going to basically have all of these sections. So this is the very first section, and then this is the second section, this is the third section. So my main will have these 3 sections. So let's go back to the code, jumping on and off over here and there. So this section basically, now we can add div over here. Okay, so this section will have basically 2 things. So first one, let's say I'll write box 1 over here, and then the other basically will have another box. So first let's create a grid. Okay, so if we have a grid, then we can add anything into the grid. Okay. So how do I create a grid? So for this section, what I'll do is I'll create a class, and I'll give it a name as, let's say, grid container. Okay. I'm giving it grid container. And I'll also have some gap also. So over here what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write dot grid dash container. If you have a better name, write some better names, but try to write good class names. Okay. So for the grid container, what I'm going to do is I am going to write display grid. Okay. So writing display grid basically will not do anything. What you have to do is we have to also create the columns also. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write grid template columns. Okay, grid template columns, and I want 2 columns, so I can write 1FR and 1FR also. This is how I can do, or I can also write repeat. I want 2 columns and the size should be 1FR. So 1FR is 1 fraction. It will divide the 2 divs into same size, so the width of both the divs would be same. So this is how grid template column actually. Now to see this in action, what we can do is we can basically, let's say, have a border for both of these divs. So what I can do is I can basically create a class over here, and let's say have box, and then box let's say 1 for this, and box 2 for this one. Okay. So this basically I'm just creating just to show it to you. So in the box I can create, let's say, border to be 1 pixel solid black. Okay, even black or gray, whatever. Okay, this is not required, but this I'm just doing it to show it to you. Okay, and then in every box, let's say I also have a padding also, so it's more visible. Let's say padding of 3 rem everywhere. So if I save it now, and if we go back to our browser, okay, let me open this link. So now if you can see, there are 2 boxes, and if you can see, both have the same size, right? Both have the same size and the same width. Okay. Now I want to move the box towards the right. So if you see in the landing page, there is a gap over here. So this gap basically is coming because of the padding that I have applied. Okay, so let me apply the padding also onto the main section, so that in that way basically it will come towards the right. Okay, so let's go back to the code, and in the main section, so I'll give it a class as class main, and to the main section dot main, I'm going to apply a padding that I applied to the heading. So padding was 2 rem over there. So top, bottom, left, right is 2 rem. So that will come towards the right now. There's no need to see it. Okay, so but still I'll show it to you so that you also have a confirmation. So it's coming towards the right. So there are 2 boxes now. See, both are having the same size. Okay, if I want a gap between them, which I actually want, so I'll create a gap also between them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another class gap over here, and or let's say gap, I want it as a gap of 64 pixels. Okay, so what I'm going to do is in the CSS I'll write dot gap, and I'll say gap to be 4 rem. Okay, never use pixels as your units. Pixels are absolute value, and we should not use absolute values. Basically, we should always use relative values like rem, m, percentage, VW, VH, even CH works, character. So we should use always relative values, never absolute values. So now if I go back, so now you can see that we have a gap between both the boxes also. Let's start adding our content in the box. Okay, so we want an image on the right hand side and some text on the left hand side. So let's do with the left hand side first. So this div. So what I'm going to do is, okay, I'll remove this box one that I've written over here, and then I have to start adding the content. So what basically is the content over here? So, okay, cool. Okay. So I'll create one more div which basically will have my all the details which are there in it. So let's have a look at it. Okay. So what is there over here? So first I want to have this title, so we can get it through H2, and then we have this text which we can get it through P, and then an input and a started button. So let's write this thing. Okay. Okay. So in this div, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an H2, and then what was written, it says all your files in one secure location, do wrap accessible. Okay, see now why am I writing this, all of these things? So this I am writing just to show you that even if you have a big text, then it won't go out of the box, it will still be in the box. Okay, so I have this H2, and then after this H2 I have a P tag. So I am basically creating a div, and I am writing all the things in the div. Okay, now why have I created 2 divs? So this first div basically would actually have, so the first div basically will have all the text. Okay, and then there would be one second div which will basically have the image that I want in this second div. Okay, and then this div basically will have my flex or some required classes for these text and these paragraph. Okay. Then let's have a paragraph, and in the paragraph it's basically a huge paragraph, so I'll try to write it as soon as possible. Flyo stores, I won't write everything, your most important information uh, in one secure location. I'm not going to write everything, but good to have text in one secure location. Access them and share share it with anyone. Okay, this is what I want. I'll save it. Okay, so if I go back to the website to see what is over there, so yeah, we can see now it is like slowly taking up the pace. So now it's coming all your files and then the paragraph also, but we have to add some padding over there. Let's add the CTA. So the CTA that we want over here is the input and the button. Okay, so let's add this also. So Onyx says, why didn't you use Flexbox? See, basically the difference between Flexbox and Grid is, see, both of them are used to perform to create layouts, but generally is when you are creating a layout for the website, we use Grid, and then inside the Grid or inside a div, if you want to use a layout, then you can use basically Flex. Like for example, the Flex, suppose if you want things adjacent to each other, like on side, then you can use a Flex over there, one below the other, you can use Flex over here. But generally for a layout of the website, you should use Grid. That is more accepted by all the developers. You can use Flexbox also if you want, but most of the developers follow this norm where they use Grid for layout, and it depends from company to company also. But we can use Flex and Flexbox and do this also. Good question, Onyx. Okay, so Mazhar says people say to make responsive website, it is easier in framework like Bootstrap or Tailwind. Is it true? See, you should avoid using frameworks. Learn vanilla CSS first. Okay, if you're learning at a good time now, like or beginning, learn vanilla CSS. Try to write everything on vanilla CSS. That is why the reason I'm doing this thing. Okay, I could have done it using Bootstrap and Tailwind also, or any other component library also, but I decided to keep it raw and write it raw. So use vanilla CSS. Once you learn vanilla CSS, Bootstrap basically is nothing but an abstraction over it. So then you can use Bootstrap also, but learn to write media queries and everything using your own vanilla CSS rather than writing using whatever it's Bootstrap, Tailwind, or any other framework. Okay. Does that make sense, Mazhar? Okay, great. So now what we want is, now we want the input also. So for the input, what I'm going to do is, so this div was basically for the text. Okay, this div was for the text. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to, inside this div after the p tag, okay, inside this div after the p tag, I'm going to create one more div, and inside this div basically I'm going to create an input and a button. So I'll write input, okay, and then we can give it a placeholder also. So I'll write a placeholder and say enter your email ID, okay, and then after the input I want a button also, right? So I can create a button over here, and then in the button I can write what do we want for the button. It says get started. So let's save it and let's see it in action. So if I see over here, so you can see there is an enter your email ID and get started also. So okay, it's good, but we have to style it so that it looks better. Okay, it's not looking good at all now. So first let's style the button, and then we can style the, or we can basically add some gap between them. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, if I'll go back to the code, so first I'll add some gap between them. So the reason for me creating this div was, so I have all of these three things in the div. So what I can do is, in the div I can create a class which says column flex. Okay, column flex. So what I'm going to do is, over here in the column flex dot call dash flex, I can use display flex, and I can write flex direction column, and then I can apply a gap. Okay, so what I can do is I can take a gap of 2 rem. So I'll just write gap, let's say 2 rem. I'm not using a gap of 4 rem, so I'll write dot gap dash 2 rem, and I'll have a gap between them of 2 rem. Now over here you can use margin and all the things as well, but generally I prefer using flexbox for all of these things. So now if you see, there is a gap between all of them, but the gap is way too big, so we can reduce it to 1 rem or 1.5 rem. So let's do it. So see, all of these CSS is always trial and CSS adjusting the size is always trial and error. Okay, now it looks good. With 1 rem it is better. Okay, so you can use margin top right, top bottom also, but I prefer using flex because I can reuse the classes everywhere. So I just want my work to be to get reduced. Okay. Okay. Now what we want is, now we want to style the button. So let's style the button. Okay. So I'll take a class called as, let's say, button, and then I'll also create a class called as, let's say, button dash primary also. Okay. So I want 2 classes. Now why am I creating these 2 classes is just because to teach you a very good thing. So you can create one single class for button in which you can have the utility of button. Utility of button means you can basically first make the background color, let's say, transparent. Okay, because we are going to add a background color. Okay, so we make the background color transparent, and then basically we can make the border to be none. Okay, border none. So we do not have any border over there, and then we can have a border radius which say, let's say, 4 pixel, because it should not be sharpened, that looks bad. And then we can have a font size also. So the font size, let's say, I'll keep it as 1.2 rem. Okay, so if I save it now, let's just have a look at the button now. Can you see the button? It's good, right? Okay, so this is basically how you should have. Now this one styling of button you can apply it anywhere, and then you can add one more class, and then with this one more class you can, let's say, the way I've created button primary, so I can have dot button dash primary. Okay, button primary, and then in the button primary I can add another background class, background color. And what was the background color that I wanted? So yes, I forgot to create all the colors. So the background color that I want for this basically is, where did it go? Yeah, I have the background color. So HSL, it's a blue color shade, 224,93%, 58%. So these colors I have not created on my own. Okay, to be honest, I got it from a challenge, so I thought I can use this thing, it looks better. So if I go back and then if I see, so I have a background color, and then I have this text which is white in color. So we'll change the color of the text to white, and we'll add some padding also to the button so it looks better. Okay, so button styling is done then. So this is how you can style any button. Okay, have like some common things. So I always do a lot of common things. Okay, I don't complicate much of the things. Most of the things are always common. So for white, what I'll do is, let me take this thing only, this HSL, it's more like a whitish thing. So if I save it, and then if we go back, so yeah, it's taking shape now. Let's change let's add some padding. So let's say padding. Okay. So for padding, padding should always be in terms of, even if you're using pixels, it should be, let's say, 4 pixels, multiple of 4 or multiple of 8 pixel. Never use something like 7 pixel, 9 pixel, don't use that. Okay, it's basically a standard where your padding should always be multiple of 4 pixels or 8 pixels. And the padding for a button, the padding on the left and right should be more than the padding on the top and bottom. Okay, it will make it look more good. So for top and bottom, we'll keep it as 4 pixel. For left and right, we'll keep it as 8 pixel. Okay. Now you might be wondering, I told not to use absolute units like pixel, and now why am I using absolute unit like pixel? Because if your size is less than 10 pixels, you can use pixels. If your size is more than 10 pixels, use rem. Okay. So if I save it, and then if I go back, and if you see, yeah, button looks good, right? Ekdam is jabardast, badhiya lag raha hai. But if you want to increase the size of the button if you want it to be more big, then what we can do is we can increase the padding on the left and the right, but I don't think it's necessary for now. If you want, you can change it, but make it multiple of 68 pixels or multiple of 4 pixels will do. So let's say 12 pixels would be 0.875 rem. Yeah, this is what 12 pixels is. So if I go back and if I see, okay, so now the button looks more better. We have to do the same thing for the input also. So let's do this for the input. So what I'm going to do is for the input, I'm going to increase the size of the input. So I'm going to write a class over here, class, and what name should I give to the class? Let's say I'll give it a name as form input, and we'll make the type, or we'll change the type also. The type of this thing should basically be email, because we are using email, right? I want email ID, so we'll make the type also email. So see, changing the type, basically Google will understand that this is basically for email ID and not basically for text or something like that. And then in the form input, what we can do is in the form input, we can basically write, let's say I'll change the height. So I'll change the height of it to how many pixels. It should match the size of the button, right? So let's see what is the size of the button. So if I go back over here and if I try to inspect it, so we have to see the height of the button. So I'll click on the button and the height is 30.4 pixels. Okay, yeah, because we'll add the padding also, not top bottom, so it's 30. So how can I change that? So instead of changing the height, let's change the padding, right? Why are we changing the height? So let's change the padding. So the padding would be, let's say, left, right, top, bottom. It would be, let's say, 4 pixels only, and it's let's keep it same. Let's see, 75 rem. Okay. So if I save it, and then if you go back, okay, it has increased, but not that much. So let's increase it more. So I can do that using the padding only. Okay, so what should I give the padding? Should I keep it 1 rem? Okay, let's see if I keep it 1 rem, what happens. Is it increasing the size? Not much of a difference, right? Okay. We can increase it a little bit, and then we can also add some flex also onto it. Okay. Okay, so Mazhar is asking, why should we use RAM when things go above 10 pixels? So see, you only asked a question about responsive website, right? So we basically, suppose when you are making a website and then you want to make it responsive website. So what is RAM and what is M? It will be, RAM basically takes its calculation from the font size of the root element. Okay, so whatever is the font size of the root element. So generally the font size of the root element is 16 pixels. So 1 RAM is 16 pixels. Okay, so if I write 4 RAM, then that becomes 64 pixels. So when basically I'm creating a responsive website, then most of the things basically, since it's using RAM, most of the things are automatically, basically they become responsive. Then my work for making a responsive website decreases. Okay, so that is the only reason for using RAM instead of pixels so to make a responsive website. Okay, let's apply some flex on this button and this input field. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a class over here, and for this div which I have as an input, and create a class as, let's say, CTA over here. And then over here I'm just going to create dot CTA. And okay, so I already have this flex, right? So there's no need to create anything, correct? That is why I already created these things over here. This display flex, this align C. So I'll write over here deflex and align dash C. See, the work reduces, right? Drastically it reduces. So if I go back and then if I see now it's basically the same size, align center also. What I have to do is I just have to add a gap between them. I have a gap also. So just I have to add it with them. Okay. So I'll go back to the code, and then I have a gap of 4 rem and I have a gap of 2 rem also. So I'll take a gap of 2 rem. I have this gap dash 2 rem. So I just over here have to write gap dash 2 rem. So the idea is to not repeat the CSS, right? Idea is not to repeat the CSS but to have the same CSS. So now if I go back to my browser and see it, so if you see that yeah, this has actually changed. There is a gap between the input and the button. Okay, we can add a border radius to the input also. So let's do that. Let's do that also. Let's add a border radius to the input also. So the form input, the padding is over here, and then let's say a border radius 4 pixels. So now see, if you are using border radius also again and again, like I'm repeating border radius over here, and in the button also I'm repeating over here. If you are repeating it more than twice or thrice, then you can create a class called as border radius 4 pixels or radius 4 pixels and use that class everywhere. So that's basically the idea of writing clean and good CSS. So if you see over here now, the border, it has a border also. So this looks good, right? So I can enter my email ID, which says, let's say prakash@xyz.com, something like this. Okay. And then now when I hover on this button, the color also should change, right? So we did that, we already did we have a class called as cursor also, right? So I can do that. See, we have already made a lot of things. There's no need to add many things. So if I see the cursor class, where is it? Over here. See cursor, what it will do is, it will change the opacity to 85%. Let's make it as pointer also. So I'll make it cursor pointer. So then it will have a cursor on the button. So in the button class, I'm going to add the cursor class also. So if I save it, and if I go back, so if I see, okay, if you can see, the color is changing. Great, right? So we have already done a lot of different things. Okay. Okay, fine. Let's change the text size also. So let's see the text size of this H2, all your files. So if you see, the text size is a little bigger of both the paragraph tag and all these things, and even the input field is also a little longer. So let's try to do this. Okay. It might take time. It might take another half an hour for us to finish this thing. Is it okay with y'all? Okay. I thought we'll do it in 1 hour, but it will take time for us to finish it. So is it okay for y'all? Okay, so let's basically add a class over here. A class for this title. So I'll give it a name as, let's say, heading, or I'll give it a name as heading, let's say, heading text, or okay, heading info. Heading info. So this is my heading info. So I want to change its font size, right? So I want to change its font size, and I want to change its line height also to make it a little bigger. So I don't want to change its font size. Okay, I'll change its font. Okay, it's so much confusing. So I'll write dot heading. Okay, let's check the font size of that thing first. Okay, we'll see the font size, like how much is the font size of this H2. So if I go back and inspect over here, so I'll see the font size of H2. This is 32 pixels, and the font size of this P is 16 pixels. So okay, let's do that. So the line height, so it has a line height also. I think it has a line height of 3 rem, something like that, and then there is a letter spacing also. So let's do this. Okay, so let's add a line height. So this will have a line height. The line height is 3 rem, and then it has a letter spacing also. So we'll take letter spacing, and the letter spacing would be 8 pixels. Okay, so if I save it, and then if I go back to see, okay, is there any change over here? I think there is some change in basically the letter spacing. Yeah, there is some change in the letter spacing. Okay. No, there is no change because the class name is different. My bad. So heading info now let's see if there is a change. Okay, so if I go back, okay, now there is a change and the change is very bad. So it's fail gaya pura. Means I have to change the letter spacing. I think 4 pixels was way too much. So let me keep it 2 pixels. So if we keep it 2 pixels, then is it good or bad? 2 pixels is good, right? Yeah, 2 pixels is good. All your files in one secure location. If 2 pixels is also way too much, then we can change it into point as well. Let's say instead of 2 pixels, I can have 1.5 pixels. So if I save this, this will be the last setting that I'm trying to do. Okay. Okay, this looks much better. All your files in one secure location, accessible anywhere. Okay. The font over here is different. I think this font is something else, and this font is something else which I'm using over here. Okay, that does not matter at all. Let's do it for the p tag also. So for the p tag also, I'll be using the same line height, not the same line height. For p tag, I think I should use some different line height. Okay. So for p tag, we'll just use the letter spacing. So I'll write over here class and give it a name as para-info. And then I'll write dot para-info, and I can give it as a letter spacing of let's say the same thing, 1.5 pixels. Please take some water and anything that you want to have, because this is going to take a while. Okay. So if you see now, this is basically has changed also. Let's just increase the width of the input. Is the line height of the text good? All your accessible file in one secure location. I don't think it's good. So let's change the line height. Instead of 3 rem, I'll make it 2 rem. So if I save it, okay, this is much better now. Okay, so this is good. Okay. Let's increase the size of the input. So in order to increase the size of the input, the width of the input, what I'm just going to do is, let's write width to be, let's say I'll take it in percentage. So let's say I'll take it 30% of the width of the viewport. So VW is the width of the viewport. So if I go over here, so if you can see over here, so it's good now. It's way too big. So let's change it. Instead of 30, we can make it let's say 25. So 25% of the viewport. So if I save it, this is much better now. It has a border, so let's make remove the border also. I'll make the border to be border none. So if I save it, I think this should make some changes over here. Okay, great. So I don't have any border over here. So this actually looks good. So I can enter an email over here. So this looks good. Or if you want a border, you can create a border. You can add border 1 pixel solid. Gray would be much better. Or hashtag the same thing, 27272A. 7272A. So if I save it, I have a border also over here. Okay, so this is getting shape. Now let's add an image. Okay. So we want the image also. So to get the image, what we can do is we can visit this website called as Undraw, and then they have images. So I'll take a different image. I don't know whether I'll be able to find this image or not. What they are doing, I don't know. So I'll just say browse now, and then search for any image. So let's say we will take this image. Okay, and I can change the color of the image also to whichever color I want. I'll just click on download SVG for your projects. So I have an SVG. I'll just save it in a folder. Save it in the same folder which I'm basically using. So I'll copy it. You also save it in the same folder. So you can download any image from there from Undraw. Okay. So I'm just saving it in the folder. So I'll create a new folder called as assets, and we will add it in that folder. So all the images should be basically in a folder. So I've created a new folder called as assets, and then I'm going to add it in that folder. Okay, great. So I have this image and I have this asset folder. So over here if you see I have the asset folder, and then I have this undraw image also. So in this box what I'm going to do is, in the second div, I'm going to create basically first an image tag inside this, and then give it a name as class image, and the source basically would be assets slash this image. Okay. So if I save it, and then if I go back over here, let me just close this. If I save it and if I go back, let's see if I click on this thing. Okay, so great, right? If you can see, the image has come. Okay, so the image has come over here, and if you want to change the size, we can change the size of the image. Right now I don't want to change the size of the image. I think the image is good enough. So I'm going to do only one section now. You can add another section the same way and add the same thing, and this time you have to change the styling over there only. Okay, so great. So now this thing is done, right? I just have to remove the border, the border radius that I have. So I'll remove the border radius. So what I'm going to do is, where did I create the border radius? I had basically a class called as box over here, somewhere over here. Where did it go? Yeah, this one. So this box basically has a 3rem padding. So I'll remove this border for now because I don't need it. So if I save it now, and then if I go back, so yeah, if you can see over here, so this is how it's looking now, right? If you want to change the font, you can take some other font also. I don't remember the font which I had taken. It is Open Sans only, the font that I had taken. But yeah, I think, yeah, it's Open Sans only, the font that I had taken. Maybe the font size that I've taken is not that good. But so you can take some other font and try some other font also. Okay, so this is done. So we have this image and this thing. So let's see what is the size of this image. So if I click over here, and I can see this image is way too big. So if you want to change the size, it's very simple. You just change the width. The height will change automatically. This is 554 pixels now. Let's say if you want to reduce it, the size of the image, so it's very simple. So I've created a class image already for this, and then what I'm going to do is, over here I'm just going to write .img, and I'm just going to take the width. Let's say the width would be 450 pixels. Okay, and if I save it, and then if I go back to the browser, so if you see the image has changed to 450 pixels. So is this good or the previous one was good? Okay. Okay. So the image size is also reduced. So this is taking shape now. Okay. On Undraw, if you want some different color images, you can do that also. Okay. It's very simple. You just go to Undraw, and then this is the color, right? If you click over here, the color also can change. So you can put hex code, or you can select the color from here also. And if you see, it's changing in real time. So according to your color, whatever color you want, the different shades you want, you can use that also for Undraw. So Undraw is very good, and it gives you high quality SVG images. So you can use Undraw. Okay, good. Let's come back to the code. And so it would take a lot of time if I cover everything. So I won't be covering all the things. I'm sorry about that. Because in the landing page, so because see this, if you make this section, anyhow this section I was going to give as a homework only. It's basically the same thing only. For this you just have to create a div and add some p tag, and you over here you just use display, flex and align center. That's it, what you have to do. And then an image you can use, got it from Undraw. This you use an h2, and then there are two different paragraph tags over here. Use the same thing, the flex container, and change the direction to be column, and then you can have a gap also. Okay, we can create this thing. Okay, so get early access, or let's create a footer. Okay, instead of creating this get early access today, let's create a footer now. So if I click over here, if I try to inspect this thing, see, and if I try to inspect this thing, let's see how I made it. Okay, so here it's basically, see, it's basically the flex box. Okay, if I click over here, it's nothing but flex box. So any footer, this is a very famous footer. You might have seen it on so many websites like Flipkart, Amazon, and then different things, or different on different websites. So, and then you might be wondering, okay, this is so difficult to do, but this is very simple. Okay, very bacha kind of things, where you just use flexbox. And so there are 4 different div tags. In every div there is a list, and then I've put all the div in one container, and then the flexbox. That's it. Okay, and then if you see, everything is over. Align items, and then justify content, also space between. So, or I can put a gap also. Okay. So Mazhar is saying, can you add logo before ending this session? So do you want me to add a logo? Okay, so of this Fabicon logo, or this Flyo logo? I think you're talking about the Fabicon logo. Kar lenge, we can do that also. Okay. So let's do the footer now. Okay, and then we'll end it by adding the logo also. Okay. So footer will not take much time. Footer will be done quickly. Okay. So in the main tag, basically I'll outside the main tag I can add a footer. So I have a nav, I have a main, and then I have a footer. Okay, so this is how you should use semantic HTML. I'll give it this a class also, a class of footer. Okay, class, let's say footer. Okay. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, in this footer, basically I'm going to have first I'm going to have an H1, because I have a name also. So what I'm going to do is, I have an H1. So the name basically is Flyo. This is basically the name of it. Okay. And then basically what I'm going to do is, I'm going to have a div, which basically would be my flex. Okay. And then inside this div, I'm going to have 4 divs. So I'll write div : 4. Okay. Now in all of these divs, basically what I want is, I want a list, and I want some of these phone numbers also. So let's do the phone number thingy. Okay. So over here, or let's do the list only. Okay. Not the phone number. So we'll do this about us and contact and all the things. So I have a list. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to create a UL. Okay. And then in the UL, I'm going to create 4 li. Okay. So the first li basically is about us. Okay. And then there is jobs. Then there is press. And then there is this home. Okay. So if I save it, and then if I go back to see the footer, this footer will be very bakwas. Okay. So if I scroll down, so see, everything is coming over here. Okay. But we don't want it like this. So what I'm going to do is, we'll come back to the code, and in the code, okay, let's first add all the UL and all the LIs. So now I have another UL, and then I have 3 LIs over here, which basically tells about the contact us, and then it's basically the terms and the conditions, and then it's the private also. Okay. So if I save it, and then if I go back to the browser, so you can see, okay, all of these things are coming one together below one another, about us and all things, but we don't want it over here. So since we want it as a flex, so we'll move it into the flex. Okay. So let's do that also. And if time permits, then we can add some images also. So, okay. Let's add the class for the UL also. So for what was the class that I created for the UL? It was basically class list dash non-bullet, because we do not want any styling on the list. And then for the list, it was, I think it was list items, right? So let me copy this. So for list, it was not list items. So over here, I'll just make it as list item. Okay, so I put the list item everywhere over here. So I'm just pressing Alt and then using the cursor. Okay. Oh my God. I have to write class list dash item. Copied something else instead of something else. And then over here in this UL, I'm going to add a class which basically is list dash non dash bullet. Okay. From next time, I'll have to take it for at least 2 hours to finish everything. Okay. So if I go back over here, okay, if I scroll down, so yeah, it's basically taking some shape. So it's about us. All of these things are coming on different things. But then we don't want it in this way. We want it on different lines. So first, let's apply a flex over here. So for this div, this will be class dflex. So both of this will come adjacent to each other. So if I save it, and then if I save it, see it. So see, okay, I didn't show you the code, right? Okay, did I? No, I didn't show you the code. So what I did is, I basically applied this class display flex, which we have done on these two divs. So these two divs will have the display flex. And then if I see the result, this is the result. Okay, but we don't want it this way. We want about us, jobs, press and home to come one below the other. So what should we use? We should again use flex and flex container, right? Okay, and instead of home, we are basically supposed to write blogs. This is not home. Blogs. So we have to use flex over here also on this, but this should be flex of column. Okay, so we have created that also, call flex over here. So great, right? So for the UL class or okay, for this one, for this div, basically I'm going to add a class, and basically this would be called dash flex. If I save it, and if I go back over here, okay, and then for this div also, class call dash flex. So if I save it, okay, if I save it and if I go back, okay, so it's not applied. So anyone can answer this. Why is it not being applied? If I write a class call flex over here and it has a display flex and flex direction column, but still it's not being applied. Why so? So should we apply it on this div or should we apply it on the UL? We should apply it on the UL, right? So if I copy this and put it over here and paste it, then I think it's stuck. Okay, now if you see, okay, now it's working. So we have to basically apply the call flex over here, not on the div. Okay, because on the div, it won't work, right, on the div. So if you see now, it's starting to take shape now. It's coming. So we'll basically use this main flex over here, this deflex, and apply some content, justify content over here also. So that align dash C, which was a class, and we want justify center also, a space between. So that justify dash C. Okay, so over here I'll write dot justify dash C, and I'll make it justify content to be, let's say, center. So if I save it, so I think it should come in somewhere in the center. So if you go back, so if you see it comes somewhere in the center. Let me remove this, clear this out. Okay, so if you see it comes somewhere around the center, but it does not have like the proper padding and the proper spacing also. So we'll add a proper padding, and alignment should not be center also. See, the alignment should be flex start. So we'll change the alignment. Instead of center, we'll just write align dot align Instead of C, we'll write start, so it is start. So that align items, flex start. And over here, instead of align C, where is align C? I'll make it align S, which is align start. So if I go back and if I see it, so you can see it's basically aligned vertically. Let's add some padding in the footer section because there is no padding over there in the footer and it's making it look very, very bad. So over here, I'm just going to add some padding. So I'll just write footer, dot footer, and give it some padding. So let's say the padding would not be auto, it would be, let's say, 2rem. Whatever we have applied for the heading and the main section. So if I go back and if I see over here, so now if you can see there is some padding, okay. So there is some top bottom padding. So this is starting to take shape now, okay. Okay, great. Now what should we do next? So I have the footer also with me now, but the footer has some background color, right? If we see over here, okay. If we see over here, this footer has some different background color. It has big padding also. So let's add some different background color to this footer. Okay. So to add some background color to the footer, what I'm going to do is in this footer only, in this footer class, I'm going to take a background color. And what is the background color for the footer? So the background color for the footer basically is HSL, and then I have a very darker color. So this is 243, 87 percentage, 12 percentage. Okay, so this is about HSL. So you should read about this thing, and the color also would have to be changed. So the color would be, then I can use HSL, and I can use this one, okay, white color. So if I go back to my browser and if I see it, so now it's looking good, right? So I have this thing. So I can also create some big, or I can also make it spaced around or something like that also. Or if we add a lot of different, let's say if I can add a gap or a gap of 4em. So for the gap of 4em, what was the class? It was just gap. So let's add a gap over here. Let's see if I add a gap, what happens. So if I add a gap, so yeah, there is a good gap between both of them. So if you can see, there is a good gap between both of them. Okay, you can add a cursor on it. So it basically would be would have the hover effect also. Okay, if you add the cursor, it will also have the hover effect. Okay, so the footer is also done for me. Okay. What we can do is we can add a logo. Okay, so to how do we add a logo? So let's say we can first download some logo. Okay, so what I can do is I'll just download Geeks for Geeks logo. Okay, Geeks for Geeks dot search for Geeks for Geeks instead of org. Okay, this site can't be reached. I'm just searching for Geeks for Geeks. I'm just searching for a logo. Okay, so I'll go on to images, and then let's say I'll use this one for now. So I'll right click on it and open image in new tab. I don't want to download the image. Okay, this will have a very huge link. Instead of this, let's say this one, open image in new tab. Something which has a smaller link. This one. Open image in new tab. Okay, this one has a smaller link, so I'll use this link. And okay, so I've copied the image. Now let's go back and let's add also we'll add a favicon first. Okay, so favicon is basically the icon next to your title. That is basically the favicon. So for favicon, what I'm going to do is over here after the meta tag, I'll basically use a link tag. So I'll write link. And then if you can see, it gives an option of favicon directly. So I'll write over here, and the href basically would be the link URL, the URL of the image. So if I save it, and then if I go back to see if it has actually changed, so yes, it has basically changed. So if you see, the link now has the link has changed now. So if I could zoom in, okay, this would zoom in. So if you can see over here, the icon has changed. Okay, so it's very simple to change the icon also of any website. You just have to use the power of uh, using HTML, right? There's no need to remember everything. So what I just did use link colon favicon, so I got this thing shortcut icon, and then so there's no need to remember all of these things. Okay, remembering tags is not. I don't even remember most of the HTML tags. I don't remember how to write a favicon. If VS Code didn't allow to do it, I would have used Google to search the syntax of it. Okay, but this is good enough. Okay, so now let's add some image, as Mazhar is saying. We should have the Flyo logo, please, also. But I'll use Geeks for Geeks ka logo. Okay, so I'll style the image also, and then we will wrap it up. So what I'm going to do is I'll first create a div and give the div, basically in the div I'll add this h1. Okay. And in this div I'll have an image tag also, an image, and write the source to be the same logo, this logo. So the source would be this logo itself, which I have. So I'll copy this because I don't have Flyo ka logo. You can use anything. The important thing is just to understand and learn. Okay, so I'll just give a class over here. Since this is going to be the logo, so I'll write class is equal to logo over here. Okay, so writing class is equal to logo. So if I go back to my website to see it, so if I see everything is broken now, right? Sab kharab ho gaya. So this Geeks for Geeks comes, it's so big. I have to change the size, right? That's not a big deal. So let's change the size. So what I'm going to do is in the logo, I'll just change the size. So I'll just dot logo. Width basically is let's say I want it 3 rem would be 48 pixels, right? So I'll keep it 3 rem should be the width, and the height should also be 3 rem. Okay, and then if I save it, and then if I go back, now it's a little better, right? We can have a bigger size also if you want. So let's have a little bigger size. So to have a bigger size, what should be the bigger size? It should be 4 rem. Let's keep it 4 rem. 4 and 4. And then I'll add a border radius also to make it circle. Border radius 50%. So if your height and width is not the same, then the border radius won't work on it. Okay. Okay, let's keep the logo the way it is. There's no need of border radius also. Okay, but now the logo will not come one, so the H1 is coming below the logo, right? So what we are going to do is we are going to use Flexbox, right? So we have already done a lot of different, we have already created so many classes, utility classes, and now these are helping us. So what I'm going to do is over here, just write class dflex, that's it. So if I save it, and then if I go back, and then if I see the website, okay, so see now it's coming together. Just have to add a gap and align them center. Done. See, it's simple. Okay, it's not that difficult because CSS is simple. Just write align dash C and then a gap dash 2 rem, a gap of 2 rem. Okay, this was the class, I believe. Gap 2 rem was it? Let's see. Yeah, gap 2 rem. If 2 rem is way too big, we can reduce the gap also. So it's not a big deal. So if I go back and then if I see, so yeah, so I have this thing also. Okay, so if I want some other logo instead of this thing, because it's more does not look good, right? Let me have some transparent thing. But open image in new tab. Okay. Even if, okay, I got this one. So, but this also has a background. So this also will not be that better, but still let's try. Save it, and then if I go back, okay, this is way too big, right? This logo. So let's change its size. So if I change the size, I have to change it to, let's say, 2 or 3 rem. So, or make it the same size as the H1. So if I save it, okay, now it is much better. Okay, we can increase the size of H1 also, and the logo you can reduce the height also. So if you want to make it more, because now it looks something like this, right? It looks something like this. If you want the logo to be smaller, so you can change the height also. So let's change the height of the logo. Instead of 3 rem, we can make it 2 rem. So if I save it, and then if I go back, so now you can see, okay, but the alignment is not there. Okay, let's inspect the page if the alignment is there. How did the alignment change? So if I click on this, it's basically the flex, and okay, the alignment is not applied. I think I didn't write the class name correctly, so that's why the alignment didn't apply. So let's apply the alignment. Align that. Okay, the spelling is incorrect. See, the problem over here becomes is HTML or CSS does not. They will never give you any error, right? They don't give you any error like this is the error or something like this. They don't give any error. But then if you don't see the output, do not be frustrated. Just check for spelling mistakes. So when I started learning HTML, CSS, a lot of times what used to happen is I used to make a lot of mistakes like this only, where the spelling is incorrect. And then there was no error. So I used to be confused, like what is happening? Am I doing it wrong or right? But then I used to see, oh, spelling mistake. Ayyo. Okay, so now I got it. So if I do it, okay, now this is proper. Align C. No, the spelling is correct. Okay, align C, spelling is correct. But it's not being applied over there for some reasons. Heading. Okay, I'm applying it at a wrong place, not over here. The spelling is wrong over here. Okay, I got it. So the spelling is, so I had written align C over here, but in the header it is not required, right? Why am I doing it in the header? I have to do align C over here, and the spelling is A-L-I-N-G. I wrote it by mistakenly everywhere. So it's just see, I made the spelling a mistake over here only. A-ling, not align. I written A-ling instead of align. My bad. Don't judge me on my spellings, okay? I am very bad at spellings. Okay, so this is done for now. We have this flyoka, this thing, and then we have the section. See, now it's not difficult for you, okay? I'm leaving it up to you. You can make this section also. These two sections are also similar. So for this section, you need a grid. It's the same over here. For this section also, you need a grid. This just is H2 and then this is a P. And instead of image, you want the input and the button. So I've taught you how to make an input and a button also. You can just try it. You can add a background color to this and then it's made, right? You can then use it wherever you want to use it. Okay, favicon also I showed you. How to change the size of the icon also I showed it to you. Okay, so most of the things we have done, the important things we have covered. You can increase the size of the button if you want. Change images also if you want. Okay, for this about us, you can add a anchor tag in the link also. So you can do that also. Okay, so yeah, that's basically it from the session. I hope you have enjoyed the session and you hope you have enjoyed watching me teach you. So yes, here I come back again. My name is Prakash Sakari. I'm a mentor at GeeksforGeeks. Do check out our courses page, which has a lot of different courses, helpful courses. We are coming up with a lot of courses over here in web development. There are these live courses and there are some free courses also which you can take. And I'm also coming up with a course on JavaScript, which will have a lot of projects in it. So I hope you're going to like it. So yeah, basically that's it from the session. If you have any questions, you can put in the questions and I'll be more than glad or happy to address those questions. Do you have any questions? It was a good session. I really liked it. A lot of people joined. We had touched almost 90. I didn't expect this amount of crowd to come, to be very honest, but got a good number of good number of people to come. Learn web development. It has a very, very good career opportunity and a very good like a long career you can have. If you're starting at an early age, then you can actually have a very, very good career by learning web development. Okay, so yeah, that's it from the side. So Onyx says, is there going to be another session? There's not going to be another session, but we are coming up with a series on projects. So starting from this Friday, okay, every Friday, Saturday, we will be having sessions where we'll be making projects. So only projects. So HTML, CSS projects, HTML, CSS, JS projects, React JS projects. It will be a very, very good series where you'll make a lot of projects which you can put on your resume, and that will basically help you a lot but this won't come on this channel. It will come on Geeks for Geeks web development channel. So do check out the Geeks for Geeks web development channel and subscribe to the channel so that you'll have a lot of you won't miss out on anything, because we are doing a lot on the web development channel. We have started it recently and we are trying to add as many good usable contents like courses on React. There's a course on Django coming up. There's a course on SQL coming up. There's a course on Angular coming up. There's a course on project building in React.js coming up. There's a workshop that I will take after the 15th or 16th of April, which will have React.js projects, and we'll teach you React.js from the beginning to making projects like e-commerce filter applications and making a video library, something like that. So stay tuned and subscribe to our Geeks for Geeks web development channel. So you can search for Geeks for Geeks web development. You can find the channel and subscribe to it, so you won't miss any more series or projects. Mazhar says, I want to become MERN developer by the end of this year. Is it possible? Yes, it is possible. Why is not possible? It takes at least 6 months for you to become a MERN stack developer. You'll be able to do it. Start with HTML, CSS, JS, React, JS, learn Redux, learn Express, learn MongoDB. That's it. You're done. And make projects. Making projects is very important. So for that, you can follow our YouTube channel where we have a lot of projects to come. Okay. So that's it. I will see you soon with another stream and another exciting thing. I hope you liked it. Show some love by liking the video, and thank you for coming and thank you for turning up. It means a lot to me. All the best to everyone. Lots of love and good wishes to you. Take care. Bye bye.